Yes. What is up, MCR family? Another weekly edition of the show, live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. I'm Matthew Hunter, live at the House of Dreams studio in downtown LA. It should be a fun show because obviously we have Floyd Mayweather to talk about. I know Gary was hyped on this fight. I know he watched it intently, paid the money for it especially.
The first part, I don't know so much about the latter.
And obviously we have some news to get into in the boxing world. Some fight rumors. The Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury trilogy card has sort of been fleshed out. Looks like it's going to be a heavyweight stacked card. A lot to get into on today's show. Without further ado, let me get to the one and only Gary in Dallas. Gary, how are you, man? You just muted yourself.
Yeah. I'm better than Paul George this morning. Like that right now. What I don't get is, like, if I said to you, Paul George or Donovan Mitchell, I take Paul George all day. So why doesn't he play that way in the playoffs? It's 4 for 17 again or something like that. Like it's not like he had a 7 for 17 day and missed a couple of shots. It's like these games are epically bad and it's one after another. I don't understand it. Like, he's way too good to be doing this.
Did you lose some money in the game?
I didn't lose. I mean, I just can't. I don't understand. I don't understand how it's this bad. It would be like, give me Miguel Cotto gets knocked out in the first round like all the time. It's like, well, he's way too good to be doing this. Like, one time, okay, you have a bad game. You play 82 games plus playoffs. Okay, you have a game like that in the playoffs. But this is multiple every single. Last year was the entire series against Denver. It was the whole series. He was awful.
Let's be honest. Paul George is one of the worst postseason players I have ever seen across all sports.
I can't even defend it anymore. It's so bad. Like, I've always been like Paul George is a stud. He's an old NBA type of player. I can't even defend him anymore. This is so bad.
Oh, I love it, Gary. I love how he did it. Oh, I love it.
But I'm better than him. I'm doing good. Good show today. I did watch the spectacle, we'll call it. I'm not going to call it boxing. And for those of y'all who say that are 45 years old, 45? I think he's 44. 44. That he would beat Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence. Guys, stop. Okay? Just stop. Okay?
He would definitely do well with them, though, probably.
Father Time beats everybody.
He would definitely do well with them, though. Still, let's be honest.
I don't see it. Those guys are 30. He's 44.
Well, hold on. This is the barometer for any welterweight. Even though he's not a welterweight anymore. Mayweather versus Danny Garcia. Who wins?
Danny Garcia wins.
Stop it.
Of course he wins. He's 12 years younger than him.
Yeah, but it's Danny Garcia, dude.
Danny Garcia loses a close decision and he throws a fit. Is that what happened?
Yes, absolutely. Come on, man. We know what's going to happen there. I mean, what real talking points can we have from this main event? It was what it was. It was a exhibition between one of the best boxers of all time, absolutely the best boxer of the last 30 years, against a YouTuber that's been training for a few years really well. Like, he has been training a lot, and that shows to a degree. But that's what it was. It was, a washing of a YouTuber that was 60 pounds heavier than him. It reminds me of like Rocky versus Hulk Hogan, and was it Rocky 2 or 3?
3.
Yeah, it's just like, what are we seeing here? Like, this is complete bullshit.
Thunderlips, the ultimate male.
Yes, Thunder. Yes. Oh my god. But it's just, there's really little I can have in terms of talking points, takeaways, real opinions on this main event, because it was what it was, a pure cash grab from one of the biggest stars in sports entertainment. That is what it is. I think in the undercard, there's a lot more to dive into, especially the co-main event of Jarrett Hurd and Lewis Aries. I mean, we can probably take a whole show diving into why, like, what happened to Jarrett Hurd. I'm far more interested in that, to be quite honest.
I'm far more interested in that too. But we haven't gotten the numbers on this yet, but I'm guessing it's going to be big. And I'm thinking it's going to be bigger than even the 1.5. Like, I said 1.5 was safe. It's going to do at least that. It could do way more. I'm thinking it's going to do way more. I don't know who paid for it and who didn't pay for it, but everyone watched it. Like, everybody watched it.
It did at least
people are mad at Floyd, right? Because it's ridiculous, and it is ridiculous. Muhammad Ali fought professional wrestlers, right? Like, what's the big deal? Like, he made money. If you're against it, A, don't buy it. B, if you're really against it, don't watch it, right? Like, I mean, I don't like. It's like getting mad at the Harlem Globetrotters because that's not basketball. They travel all the time. Okay, like, yeah. So don't. We're not saying this is the NBA Finals, right? This is something different for an entertainment perspective. It's more WWE than boxing, right? Didn't Floyd Mayweather beat the Big Show in WWE?
Yes, that was epic. Yeah.
I mean,
that was in his retirement phase, right?
After the Hatton fight when he took those two, yeah.
My big thing about it is, or anything to this sort, is the question should be, like, what effect does it have on the sport of boxing from a reputational perspective, from actual material perspective? And I think we can safely say that this doesn't, A, ruin the reputation of boxing in any way, because boxing has ruined that for decades already. And two, like, has this materially hurt boxing? No, there's no way you can quantify that. If anything, this was a massive night for the sport, even though it was a circus show night for the sport. It was still a massive night for boxing. A lot of eyes were on a card featuring real, used to be talent like Jarrett Hurd. There is some net positive to this in a lot of ways. And again, like, when this was just two YouTubers fighting and all of the attention of the sport, all of the hardcores, the purists, the media was paying attention to this bullshit, that's when I would have a debate about, does it affect the reputation of the sport? Okay. Right now, I don't think it does that. I think Floyd Mayweather is in his own category. I think the Paul brothers at this point are in their own category. They've built that to themselves in their own way. It is what it is. Like, I think that boxing fans that are upset about this need to get over it. I've gotten over it. Think about my like rhetoric when I covered KSI Logan Paul 2. I was there live for that bullshit. And think about my rhetoric now. Like, I got over it. Like, we move on, like, there's other things we need to focus on. There's big fights coming up this summer that I think are far more important, far more quintessential for the sport than Mayweather, Paul, and then eventually Mayweather versus Jake Paul.
Yeah, I don't think that there's one hardcore. I know there's not one hardcore who's like, I'm done watching boxing because of this, okay? Like, there's been way more embarrassing things like just what happened with John Pascal like last week than this, right? Mm-hmm. It's like Matt's not going to get referenced because he's not old enough, but MTV back in the 90s used to have the basketball rock and jock. It would have like 2 NBA players and a bunch of celebrities in a basketball game, and they'd have like a 25-point shot on a 25-foot. It's like, did that kill the popularity of the NBA? Did basketball heads say, I'm done watching basketball now because of this nonsense? It's something completely different, right? Like, if it doesn't move the needle for you, don't watch it. But I don't think it adds any fans, really, and I don't think it loses one. So I think it's like a net neutral. Like, I think
the new eyes on the sport, let's say like the Paul brothers fandom, right? They will still watch boxing events that have their heroes on it.
Yes, agreed.
So I expect whenever Jake Paul fights Tyron Woodley on Showtime, that's going to do decent numbers.
But they're not going to watch the Lewis Ritson fight this week.
No.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not going to create any new fans outside of Paul brother. Like, yes, Paul brother fans will watch the Paul brothers. Agreed. But they're not going to watch. They're not going to become hardcores.
No, I'm just picturing like some like 13-year-old like snot-nosed punk that's like a fan of like the Paul brothers. Like, they're Mavericks, right? And they go, oh, let's go watch Lewis Ritson on DAZN. Like, no, man.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's not gonna, and the people who are watching Lewis Ritson on DAZN aren't gonna stop watching it because Floyd Mayweather fought a Paul brother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if the aspect of like creating new fans in like a sizable like percentage or portion, that's gonna take a lot more groundwork than like single tentpole events of these nature, right? Like, and the idea of like generating a new generation of fans, that involves like the gym down the street from you and like all of our gyms down the street from us collectively and what we do and how we foster the next generation. That's a completely different, paradigm than trying to generate new fans from a one night. That doesn't work. It rarely does. I think there's only been a few instances in combat sports history where we can safely say that one night generated an entire wave of new fans.
And I don't know if someone else would have to who are more familiar with those regions, but like the Thriller in Manila in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm. The
Philippines is now a huge boxing country. How much did that one event impact? But in Montreal, you had Durant versus Leonard in the 70s, like 79, 8, whatever. Mm-hmm. How much? And now Montreal is a big boxing city, relatively.
And
how much of that?
And a combat sports city. I mean, I know you don't think about this, but Georges St-Pierre in the UFC, he was selling 800,000 pay-per-view buys in Montreal and selling out the theaters there, like 20,000 plus, like a massive superstar. Like I think there's multiple years in a row he was named Canadian Sports Person of the Year. He beat out hockey. In Canada.
I was going to say, who do you beat out? Anthony Bennett, but right, that's hockey. My brain doesn't even go to hockey. Yeah, hockey is pretty big there. That's true.
Montreal is a giant fight town, and it took a few people, a few events to do that. So there's cases of it. But it's usually a big event going to a completely new market that has not been saturated. The U.S. market is 100% a saturated market in terms of boxing. You can flip on a channel Thursday through Sunday, it seems nowadays, on a plethora of channels and streaming services and find boxing, find combat sports. So it's just different here,
Especially if you're in New York, because they show those Broadway boxing cards on SNY, which is the Met station. I'll watch it, but you got like 3 and 7 heavyweights. Like, why am I watching this? Like 2, 3, like fight at 6 o'clock in the evening. Like the first call, you got 2, 3, and 7 heavyweights fighting each other. All right, I'll watch it. Like, why am I watching this?
Team Batman Boxing. I think the boxing video game will do far more for the sport. If they ever get that video game off the ground, first off, it looks like it's gonna be great. So shout out to them. What's ESB, whatever boxing. I don't think it will do massive numbers though. I will not be surprised when that video game launches for it not to be the success that we talk about, because the hardcore community is a very, very small community. Look at the sales of like the Fight Night champions and all that. Like they're not that great.
It's not going to do what NBA, what 2K does or what Madden does, of course, because it doesn't have that kind of demographic. But like I feel like Fight Night, the ones like I'm not a gamer. I've never really been a gamer because I'm terrible at video games. Like I'm terrible at pool, so I just don't play. Like I remember the one with Bernard Hopkins on the cover. I remember the Fight Night Legend with Ali on the cover. Like everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people had those, and they were really into it. And they like, I remember Paulie Malignaggi was on, Kevin Kelly, and like all of a sudden, people who don't really watch boxing, but a couple times a year, know these kind of second tier names, right? I don't know. Will it grow this? But if that guy's on TV, will they then tune in because they know who it is? I don't know. Look, if you put Canelo, Pacquiao, and Mayweather in it, again, you have to negotiate with each one of those individually. It's not like basketball and football where you just negotiate with the players union and you have the rights to everyone. You got to negotiate with each person individually. Will they all agree to something? I don't know. But if you could get those 3 guys on it, you would move some games. Like you would. And again, not what Madden moves, but you would move some games, and it would put the kind of second-tier names that are on the game in front of a bigger audience.
Absolutely. And I will add, this is just the purest video gamer in me. If they add the feature that Fight Night Champion had where you can create fighters and then share that fighter, so you can go and find a Tyson Fury, a Deontay Wilder that somebody made, that was badass. Because like the Fight Night Champion roster was bad. It was just straight ass. But you can go in the fighter share and find any fighter ever that you want and download it, and it was awesome.
So which one was Paulie Malignaggi on?
He's been on a few of them. I think he's been on the last 2 or 3 Fight Nights.
Because I remember, Paulie made it big.
Oh, and Team Batman Boxing's right. Canelo was announced. He will be on this new game. That's a big get.
Good. Yeah.
But Pacquiao, Mayweather, those are 2 big ones as well. I think the heavyweights, you need the top 3 heavyweights in my opinion. Maybe like an Earl Spence, Terrence Crawford. That would help a lot too.
You got to get those names out because, like, especially Crawford, because he doesn't get no love. You get Crawford on the game, and you'll get the guy some money because I don't know what they get, right?
I'll be honest. If they just get like 112 to like 122 and get like all the top 10s of those divisions, and they should do for cheap. Yes, I will buy that game in a heartbeat. Because if I can play as Roman Gonzalez, just beating up all these guys, I will do it in a fucking heartbeat. Absolutely.
I always felt like the games were delayed for years and years because James Kirkland was like, "Let's hold out. You got to give me like $100 million if you want to use my likeness." And then he would hold the whole thing up. I was like, "Dude, you're James Kirkland." He's like, "I'm big in Austin. They love me there." Okay, like maybe it's true. But like he priced himself out of a Cotto fight after he had got knocked out by Canelo. It's like, just take the fight. Do you remember that? That fight was announced. And then all of a sudden, Kirkland priced himself out of it and said, "No, I want my money."
Hold on, quickly. Team Batman Box saying the fight night had 60. This already has 200. That's a lot.
Ooh. So you're going to have more legends and more active fighters, I would guess?
Quickly, guys in chat, I haven't been keeping up to date on this information. I apologize. Gary's like 50. He doesn't like care about video games. Come on.
50-year-olds play video games, though.
They don't.
Like, there are lots of people my age who I went to college with, who I graduated with, and I'm 37. I'll be 38 in August.
Like, yeah, exactly. You're 37. Like, 37-year-olds play video games. 50-year-olds?
There are plenty of people my age who play video games. Plenty.
Like, that's like your uncles or something, Gary. Like, think about your uncles. Do any of them play video games?
No, because they didn't grow. Like I grew up in the Sega Genesis era. Like they grew up in the Pac-Man era. Like that's
Pong.
There you go.
Jay is saying that Spence is on it. Batman Boxing saying Crawford, Loma, Ali, Frazier, Kovalev, Roman Gonzalez are on it.
Hey, there you go, Matt.
Estrada's on it. Ooh.
You sold one copy. Matt's got it.
Oh, dude, Gary, they have your boy Ortiz.
Stop. Really?
Yeah, you got.
I don't even have a gaming system, but I'm gonna buy it just to show love. If you put Brandon Figueroa on, I'll buy 2 copies. Just letting you know. What is it? BES? What is it called? What's the name of it?
Hold on. ESBC.
ESBC. If you put Brandon Figueroa and Omar Figueroa, one or the other, preferably Brandon because he's more relevant today, I will buy 2 copies. And I don't even have a system to play it on.
Oh man.
Do they make it for laptops? Can I get the game on a laptop?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. I'll play it on my laptop.
Laptop has to be like quality though. That's the difference, Gary. Like you can't just have like an old like 2014 Dell and be hoping to run like a quality video game. You don't have like a PlayStation 3 or 4 or anything like that?
I had a 3, but I didn't bring it when I was in New York. So that 10 years ago, I didn't bring it with me because I didn't use it.
Damn. I have to buy a whole gaming system just to get this one game, just to support Ortiz. I love it. Oh man. Anyways, Gary, let's move off of that. Let's talk about the co-main event. Jared Hurd losing to Luis Aries. Oh man. This was sad to watch, Gary. I'll be honest. This was really depressing to see a guy that had so much promise, so much talent, clearly just lose a step in a very early stage of his career. I was pretty young when like a Fernando Vargas faded early in his career because he fought all of these names when he was like 24.
Wars with all of them. Yeah.
Is this kind of what it was like? Where it's like you had this guy that had, some push behind him, had some talent, clearly was in a lot of fun fights, a lot of fight-of-the-year contenders, and then boom, immediate drop-off in ability.
Yes and no, right? Yes, like you can see the drop off and you see like the deterioration. The difference was like Vargas was, you could see like Vargas was highly skilled and really, really good. Jared Hershey just kind of wondered how he was beating these guys, right? Like he was beating them. So you Harrison, Trout, Lara, beat them all in a row. So like he did it, but like he's not really that big of a puncher. He's not a massive puncher. He's not that skilled. Like he doesn't use a jab that. But how is he doing this? Right? Like so when he started losing like he is now, it's not really that shocking to me. Like because I never saw really what made him good. Where Vargas, you saw what made him good. He just deteriorated quickly. So like yes, I can see the similarities there, but it's different because you saw Vargas' skills deteriorate. Whereas I don't know what made Jared Hurd good 4 years ago. Whatever it was, he doesn't have it now, but I don't really know what that thing was, right? Like, it's just a big force that comes at you. But McGee is that, and McGee is not good, right? So what made her, like if I said to you, what makes Tom Brady the best quarterback ever? Well, it's not his arm strength. It's not really his accuracy. It's not his athleticism. You can't really put your finger on it, right? But whatever it is, it's there. And Hurd kind of had that. And now whatever that was, it's gone. Did I go on too long? Was I rambling too long?
No, it's okay. No, maybe I thought just far more highly of Jared Hurd than you did, because I saw a lot of shades of some great aggressive swarmers. And I saw shades of Roman Gonzalez. I saw shades of James Toney. Whether or not that's true or not, I think we found out. But when he was in that run, I saw a lot of great talent. I saw somebody that was going to move up in weight soon, most likely, and fight Canelo, fight Triple G, like fight Charlo. Like there was a lot of great fights I saw him
beat Canelo years ago. When he beat Laura, I said he'll be the guy that beats Canelo. I don't think that anymore.
Exactly. I mean, I remember talking about that matchup, the idea of this presence, as you said. And I see that Jay in the chat is saying that he had heart, and that's mainly it. I don't think that's true. I think he did have a lot of skill on the inside. I think for whatever reason, he's given that up. He doesn't fight the same way, right? Like you go and watch his Francisco Santana fight and this Luis Arias fight. He doesn't fight the same way. If you go and watch the Harrison fight or the Laura fight, it's a different Hurd. And obviously, his father passing away last year, I think is a huge aspect to maybe this matchup and how bad he looked. But the Santana fight was a fight where his father was still alive. And he still looked bad there. There's still a game plan switch, a strategy shift in his camp that never reflected in the ring to success. I feel like they took a great swarmer and tried to make him more of a boxer, and that's not what he is. Okay. I thought his inside body work was some of the best in the division, if not the best in the division. And I even think his defense, I thought, while not the best, obviously, because of his style, was decent enough for what he was trying to do. It was similar, like, let's say, like a Roman Gonzalez. Roman Gonzalez can slip
Brandon Figueroa. Yeah.
You had to get Brandon in there.
Had to, because did you call him defensively good? I mean, good is subjective, but like for what he does, his style, he moves his head, he slips off someone, he makes you miss a little bit in close.
Brandon's a really good comparison, I think, as well. I thought Hurd had far more left in terms of in the tank. I can't believe he's looking the way he is. Hopefully, he can get with some sort of sports psychologist. Hopefully, he can get with a new camp, switch things up, get back to the old Jared Hurd. Because the old Jared Hurd is a monster. That's a guy I do see doing quite well against a J-Rock in a rematch. That's a guy I see doing quite well against a Jamel Charlo. That's a guy I see doing quite well at 160 now that a lot of the top talent is not in the division anymore. Hopefully he can fix things up, because I've always been a fan of Jared Hurd. But also shout out to Luis Arias, because he fought a great fight. Like, I know we've been talking about Jared Hurd mostly, but Luis Arias fought a fantastic fight. He fought the fight that Jared Hurd needed to fight. He fought that inside grueling fight, a lot of combinations, a lot of body work, and he out Jared Hurd. Jared Hurd.
I agree with everything he said, and look, he fought Francisco Santana. Okay, that don't count. So it's really been 2 years since he really fought, because that J-Rock fight was 2 years ago. Now it was May of 2019. So it's really been 2 years since he fought. He had one televised sparring session where he made a clown of himself. And then, like, he's had this. And he had this with the weight of his dad dying on it, which obviously – I remember watching an interview with Fred Hurt's dad after immediately after the J-Rock fight. And they asked him what he thought about his son's performance. And he's like, well, he lost. And, like, he understands that, which is important. And whoever was doing the interview was like, well, do you think it was close? And Fred Hurt goes, not really. Right? Like, so you can see, like, his dad was his straight shooter. His dad was the one that was going to give it to him straight, right? Like, everyone else, oh, you're the best champion. And now that's gone. So, I mean, that's a bit, obviously it's your dad, but it's also your straight guy that keeps it 100 with you is now out of the picture. I want to see him again. Maybe there's a lot of distractions and a layoff and everything that's gone on in his life led to this performance. So I do want to see him again because we all like Jared Hurd. Jared Hurd making that run at 154, every single fight was gold, right? And he was a nice guy, he's a likable guy. He's always talked trash about Errol Spence and the Cowboys. But we like her, so I want to see him back. You know, like I want to see him back. And Matt said Munguia, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but if Munguia fought him right now, Munguia would beat him. And you know what I think of Munguia? All right? I just said he's not very good, but Hurd, like, it's he needs a tune-up fight. He needs to fight Jason Wellborn again.
Oh man, I don't know who can fight at 160 for a good tune-up. I mean, they're gonna have to go to the well and find.
That's what they go deep in the well and get a guy who can take a beating, right? Get one of Rob's tough guys from the UK who takes a beating. Rob, play matchmaker. Get us somebody over there who can stand up to Hurd and you know, make her go rounds and it can take a beating.
True. Also on this card, Badu Jack beat up a late notice replacement in Dervin Colina. Not much to say about this fight.
I didn't watch. I only watched the last 2 fights.
Badu Jack battered this guy. It was bad. It was hopefully Badu Jack gets a more, you know, important fight coming up. You know, 175 is getting up a little bit.
He's aging now, so it's, you know, and I like Jack.
One of the nicest guys I've met in the sport, honest, and his team has always been super friendly. For a guy that trains the Mayweather gym and his team is always there, right? Like, it's very interesting to go into that gym and then go into like a side room and interview Badu Jack, because it's just it's very different people. I can say that, very different people. You can definitely tell the Islamic faith is heavy with that team, so they're very respectful in that like old school way, you know, the old like religious way. Very, very cool people. Anyways, yeah, hopefully he gets like a Gilberto Ramirez next, or, you know, somebody that's important, you know, somebody that will generate some interest, you know.
Well, Gilberto Ramirez is fighting Sullivan Barrera. He'll win that fight.
Yeah. You should win that fight. And that fight is
Sullivan Barrera is 100 years old. I know the Cubans age well, like really well, like freakishly well, but I mean, he should beat Sullivan Barrera at this point.
And Sullivan Barrera has never been like the greatest guy. Like Joe Jr. beat him up.
I thought Sullivan Barrera was good. Like I did, but I also have a weakness, like a soft spot for all the Cuban fighters for whatever reason. Like I still want to give Gamboa a shot every time. Like, Gamboa's going to turn back the clock this time.
Oh man. Also, I didn't see this card. I apologize, but Daniel Dubois fought on Saturday against Bogdan Danu and knocked him out in the second round. Gary, did you watch this card?
It wasn't on TV, so I only watched the in the US. We didn't have it on.
It was on ESPN. Wow.
Oh, it was on Fight TV. You had to pay $13 for it or something. That's what it was.
Fuck that.
Yeah, I said, Rob, is this worth paying? Rob said no, because it was Saturday. There was nothing on. I was like, is this worth paying for? And he's like, no. So I watched it. I did not watch it a couple days later on Daily Motion. It's not available on Daily Motion to watch. He looked good. He looked back, right? He looked like he had never gotten beat up by Joe Joyce. I'm going to say the same thing about, and I know Devin Haney's a world champion, so it's different, but I'm going to say the same thing about Dubois. He's 23 now.
Yeah.
You know how young that is for a heavyweight? Like, yeah, like 5 years from now, he'll be entering his prime. Really. Like, there's no rush. Like, let's not throw him back in with a premier heavyweight, which I know they want to do because he looked that good again. But let's just little step-ups, huh? Little step-ups. Brian Jennings, you know, people he can beat.
Yes.
Is that too much of a...
No, I like that. That's a good matchup.
Okay. Like, guys like that, guys he can beat, and he's got plenty of time. He looked good again. Like, everything you liked about Dubois prior to Joe Joyce, he showed again. Second round knockout of a guy that was at least durable, right? Mm-hmm. They should have him fight Otto Bailey. He's durable.
Yeah.
Give him some rounds. Let him beat.
Give him borderline top 15 guys. Let him feast on that for a couple years.
I guess Otto Bailey is borderline top 15.
Absolutely.
He sucks. I'm not trying to disrespect Otto Bailey. He's just big and durable. That's it. Like that's all he is.
Oh, he showed some skills in his last fight, the Showtime fight.
I'm trying. Well, who is it?
Who did he fight again? Who did he fight?
Robert Helenius, and Helenius' arm fell out.
Was that what? Is that
Was
who he
it
fought?
fight since then though? Like I wanted to say like Otto Bailey kind of proof. I'm gonna.
I got it, Gary. I'm on Box Rock right now.
Okay.
And I'm signed in, so No, it's not Wally. It's Walleen. Fucking Box Rock. Okay. No, just the one fight.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it was Travis Kaufman, and then
Travis Kaufman is who it was, not Robert Helenius. Travis Kaufman.
And then Dominic Brazil.
That's who it was. That was the fight. Okay, I get that. He did look good in the Brazil fight. The Kaufman fight was the one that was nothing happened, and then Kaufman's arm fell out of his body. And it's like, okay, I mean, he won, granted, okay, but I'm not going to give him credit for that. But Dominic Brazil fight was the one I was thinking of. That's the fight he did look better in, even though you know what I think of Dominic Brazil.
Oh man, yeah. Plus, he looked so bad now.
I think I picked Brazil to win that fight because I thought both fighters were.
Anyways, moving on from the last weekend's events, let's quickly go over this upcoming weekend. Even though there's not that much to get into, there's a Lewis Ritson versus Jeremias Ponce card, with Thomas Patrick Ward, Alan Babic, and other people that I largely do not care about. Also on Top Rank and ESPN, another card that I'm not that most hyped about. There's like one good fight on it, in my opinion. Shakur Stevenson versus Jeremiah Nakatali, and with Jose Pedraza versus Julian Rodriguez. That's actually a decent fight. I'm actually really curious about which way that goes. With a bunch of guys on the undercard that I largely do not care about.
You got Jahi, what's his name? There's some good price.
Drake Tucker.
Yeah, he's had 3 fights.
Is he that good?
They signed him at 17. They turned him pro at 17. He's supposed to be spectacular. Again, I mean, he's so far. You know what I'm saying? He's a single A player right now with major league talent. We'll see. You know what I'm saying? But they're really high on him. Xander Zayas is on the card too, right?
Yes, yeah, that's true. That's true.
And Xander Zayas is 18. That guy's good. That guy. I mean, he certainly projects well to have world championship skill. And then you have the J-Rock and that's J-Rock, the Hammerhands and Pedraza fight, which is it's a good fight.
It is. Yeah, I mean, we're finally gonna see how good Julian Rodriguez is, right?
I who do you pick in that fight? Because I don't think he's gonna win. I think Pedraza's better at this point, and Pedraza is gonna win.
I don't know, man. Pedraza is one of those guys that he has up and down performances, so it's really hard to gauge what we're gonna see here. And I think Julian Rodriguez is one of those top-ranked prospects who, he's good, but he's never going to be a guy that beats Josh Taylor, for example. Right? That's never going to happen. No. He's never going to beat Jose Ramirez.
No.
Never going to happen.
Pro Gray, those guys are good. Yeah.
It's just unfortunate. I don't see that in him as a prospect. I see a sort of a borderline top 10 guy, and that's kind of what Pedraza is. So in my opinion, this is like 50-50 fight because it's one guy that's, in my opinion, going to take the role of Pedraza most likely after Saturday. So I'm probably going to pick Rodriguez slightly, and that's only probably due to age.
I just think Pedraza, he's a borderline top 10 guy at 140. I agree. I just think he's fighting in the wrong weight class. He was really good at 135.
Yes, he was.
Really good. So I know he lost to Loma and then went to 140. But, okay, just because you lose to Loma in a competitive fight doesn't mean that you maybe he can't make the weight anymore. I don't know, but he came up from 130 and didn't spend much time at 135 and went to 140. I think if he could get down to 135, he's better off there because he's a sniper. He likes to fight at long range. He has a height and reach advantage at 135. That's kind of he doesn't have at 140. He doesn't have a height and reach advantage over Josh Taylor or Mario Barrios at 140. So, I think 135 is a better fit for him if he can get there. But I think he's experienced enough and he's still sharp enough that he'll beat. Because Hammerhands is a fun fighter. I'm kind of with Matt. I don't even think his ceiling is that high. So I'm going to take Pedraza. close competitive. It's a 10-rounder or a 12-rounder?
Ooh, sorry. 10-rounder.
I'm going to take him in a close competitive, 10-round decision where he wins, but it's a good fight.
I think it's going to be a decision for sure. Neither guy's packing a lot of heat. Shakur Stevenson's going to demolish Nakatali, and I don't even know who Nakatali is, but it's.
I tried to find him on YouTube just to see what he is. He lost once to a Russian fighter who's been around, like whose name you would know, who's lost to, who's kind of like a gatekeeper type of guy to the top 10.
Trubakov or whatever.
Yeah, he lost to him early there, Chris. I'm not going to hold that against because it's really early in that career. But there's not much really to look up on him. Like, I don't know much about him. I don't know how they got him this fight. But, I mean, I can't imagine him being – can they get Shakur? I know Shakur's holding out for either a Valdez fight or a Herring fight, but can we get him something a little bit better than this? You had Tokakan Clary. And somebody before that. Who did he fight before Clary? Somebody even worse than that.
Felix Caballero.
Then you had Tokakan Clary, and now you have this. I get you're just keeping him busy, but this is 3 fights in a row now where, come on, let's do a little bit better than this. This is Shakur Stevenson. The guy that hasn't lost in his last 3 fights, that's all gone the distance. He's lost 1 round. And I don't even remember what round that was to Joe Gonzalez. Other than that, he's won 190, 190 on all the cards.
The Caballero fight was a 6-round knockout.
Oh, okay. And he had won every round on the card up until that point, right?
Yes.
But so he's lost 1 round in his last 3 fights total. Right. So the thing is, the level of dominance is way too great. Like this is bad sparring, and I'm not knocking these guys, right? But like. It's Shakur Stevenson. It's a special talent. You can put him in with a little bit higher level fighter, and it's not gonna. You know what I'm saying?
Well, let's be honest here. Like, it's not like Top Rank doesn't have in-house fights that are amazing and massive fights for Shakur Stevenson. They do. You have Oscar Valdez and Jamal Herring just sitting there waiting.
It's kind of a 3-way. Like one of them's gonna get left out next. I don't know who it's gonna be, but 2 of those guys are gonna fight next, and I guess Shakur doesn't want to take a big fight and risk losing that. So he's just, because he could fight this guy and then fight tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I get it, but Shakur Stevens is a special talent. Like, we get back to him a little tougher than this.
It's Top Rank, man. Like, it's their fucking diet, man. It's ridiculous. That's why it's hard to get up for these types of tune-up fights, to be quite honest. But anyways, that's it for fights this weekend. Again, not a lot of massive stuff, but let's get to the news.
Lewis Ritson fight. This is an eliminator for
what?
The IBF. So the winner of this is Josh Taylor's IBF mandatory. Again, I'm not disrespecting these guys. I like Lewis Ritson. Like, Ponce is a guy I don't really know, right?
He's an undefeated Argentinian.
Fighters. A lot of times these Argentinian fighters who come out of nowhere are pretty good, right?
They can be.
But, like, so let's say the Argentinian fighter is good and he beats Ritson. Beating Ritson makes you Josh Taylor's mandatory? Like, who did Ritson beat at 140? Like,
well, luckily it won't be the first mandatory call because we have Jack Catterall. He's the first one called, right?
Right. But if Ritson, whoever wins is going to wait it out. They're not going to risk losing that status because they'll never get it again. And they'll probably, if you mash them top in the top 10 guy, they'll probably lose. So it's like, no, I'm just going to sit on my world title shot. And if that's 18 months from now, I'll sit out 18 months.
Dude, how has Lewis Ritson built himself into a title eliminator? That's crazy.
There was something about him. I remember watching him fight Robert Barrett early in his career, like the first time I saw him. Was it Robert Davies or Robert Barrett? Who was the one he fought first?
Dude, Barrett, I think. Hold on. Who is it?
Lewis Pocket Barrett, right? That's what they call him?
Robbie Barrett, yeah.
Yeah. You can tell there's something to it. Like there's something there's something that I see in him, right? But then he lost to I always call him Pantera. What's the guy's name? The Spanish guy's name from Spain?
Patera.
Yeah, Patera.
Dude,
okay.
Actually, he's from Belgium.
Would a name like Patera?
Or he's training in Belgium. I don't know.
All right.
The flag on BoxRec says Belgium, but I know he's from Spain, so I don't know why they're doing that. But I will say this poor motherfucker, man. Since he beat Lewis Ritson 3 years ago, he's had 1, 2, 3, 4 fights. The only fight of note is probably against Paul Highland Jr. And
didn't he fight Orlando Fidiagilio too?
No. Did he get beat by him?
No, didn't he beat him?
I don't see his name here.
We're talking about Patera, right?
Yeah, I don't see his name here. No, I don't think he did. But then you have Lewis Ritson, who has somehow, beat like Robbie Davis Jr. and Miguel Vasquez, old ass Miguel Vasquez, and is not a title eliminator. How is that possible? How did the European boxing champion get passed over? I don't understand.
He beat Dominic Valentino. I knew he beat one of my boys. I knew he beat one of them. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Anyways. Someone in the chat is saying, go watch PragerU. No. What? Wrong show. Go to my political show at 4.
Didn't you do it?
I've done a lot of PragerU reaction videos.
Yeah.
If you want to watch PragerU videos from a communist perspective, go to my political channel, Trending Now Network. Get actual educated instead of from fucking Dennis Prager's dumbass. Digressing though, I could care less about this Lewis Ritson card, and it sucks that he's a mandatory for a world title. I don't know how it's possible. Connections, man. That's connection.
But there's something like people like, even though he never really beat anybody good, like people were really high on him. Like Rob, I thought he was good. It's like, but I need to see him beat somebody, and he never really did, and he fought Patera and lost. I don't know. Like there's something to him that people thought were really good. It just never really he hasn't shown it, and especially at 140, he has not shown it at all at 140.
It is what it is. Moving on to news of the week. The Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder card for July 24th is being filled out, and it looks like it's going to be a heavyweight, top-heavy card. I don't know about the untelevised portion or the FS1 portion or ESPN Plus portion. The prelims might be other names, but the main card looks like it's all heavyweights, Gary. We got Frank Sanchez versus Efe Ajagba. We have, Wanaki versus Robert Helenius, right? Jared Anderson's supposed to be on the card as well.
You get another undefeated prospect who I've never heard of, but undefeated guy they think highly of, or at least regard in a degree, right?
I mean, what do you think about the card so far? All the heavyweights on it.
This is a Don King thing. Don King used to do this on Mike Tyson cards. I like it. It's a night of the big man. I like the idea. Sanchez and Ajagba. I don't really think the world of either of those guys, but I like the thought. These are our two prospects. Let's put them in together. Let's see who's better. I like it. But I don't think either guy is going to be the heavyweight champ of the world. So I like the idea in principle. I just don't like if Ajagba wins. Do you think he's going to compete with the top 3 guys in the division?
No.
If Sanchez wins, do you think he's going to compete with the top 3 guys in the division?
Interesting enough, the only heavyweight here that I actually view as having some future potentially, and it's potentially as well. I'm adding that caveat. It's probably Jared Anderson. Right?
Jared Anderson's good, yeah.
Or the one that I see having the highest ceiling because he looks the most fluid in the ring. Because Efe, Frank Sanchez, even Frank Sanchez to a degree looks more fluid than Efe, but they both look a little bit robotic at times. You know what I mean? Jared Anderson looks like he can flow in there in terms of combinations from punch to punch. But I don't think any of them are going to be guys that we talk about as the next Deontay Wilder, the next Tyson Fury, the next Anthony Joshua, the next Andy Ruiz. I don't think any of that's happening.
Sanchez has a good jab, and I think that can carry him to the top 10-ish, but I don't see anything else. Ajagba has good power, I guess. I mean, we haven't seen really knock anybody good. Heavyweights can knock out bad fighters at ease. Mm-hmm. But Ajagba is so mechanical. He just needs to be oiled and greased a little bit. So everything is he's kind of like a rock'em sock'em robot. I don't know if he's too big and too bulky, but there were people that were high on him, especially when he was the PBC guy, and they were all huge on him. But he's not that good. Yes, he can punch. He can knock out bad heavyweights. I don't know what that means. Like, so what? Like, I'm picking Frankie Sanchez to win, but I'm not 100% on that. And I don't really think either guy is, anything higher than a borderline top 10 guy. And I don't think Ajagba is a borderline top 10 guy.
Tony in the chat saying Wanaki is the best. I mean, he's clearly the most highly ranked of all the guys we're talking about, but he's not a prospect anymore. Like, he got knocked out by Robert Helenius.
Bad.
You know what I mean? Like, Wanaki's one of those guys where he's never going to be the next Deontay Wilder, the next Tyson Fury. Like, that ship has sailed, I think. Sorry. Like, he has too many limitations. We can see that his chin can be tested by top 20 heavyweights in Robert Helenius. No, Wanaki is probably a borderline top 15 guy right now as it stands, but he's never going to be in that top 10 again in rankings. That ship has sailed, I think. He got figured out, Any of these other guys, they're still prospects. They're still, 10-0. They still haven't really proved themselves yet. Let's see where they can go. Gary, moving on, but still heavyweights. Your boy, Usyk, looks like he has his fight with the guy that's been ducking him, as you say, Anthony Joshua, September 25th in the UK. Your thoughts?
Eddie Hearn is trying to handpick the judges right now. Handpick the ref, handpick the judges, pay him off, whatever they need. There's no way that Joshua can win this fight. Like, he's got to knock him out, but like, he's not gonna. Right, so Usyk wins this fight on points wide. I mean, I don't see how AJ wins this fight. I'm glad Usyk didn't sign the fight choice and that he held out and never put ink to paper and signed that fight, even though it looked like we all thought it was done and never was officially done. And now he's getting this, and yeah, he's going to upset the Wilder. I'm not the Wilder, the Fury. Joshua fight, and we're not going to get Wilder AJ, and now we're not going to get Fury AJ, at least for Undisputed next. I would imagine there's a rematch close, so we're probably going to get this twice, I would think. So we're a ways off from Undisputed, at least a year off.
Dude, I cannot wait. I cannot wait for AJ to knock out Usyk. I cannot wait, Gary. This might be the one fight I'm most looking forward to for that petty reason we're doing the show, right? Where we just want each other to like lose our pick. That's purely it, man. AJ by demolition within 6, man. Derek Chisora.
How do you demolish him?
Dude, Derek Chisora laid hands on Usyk.
Chisora's a bigger puncher than AJ, though.
Dude, Chaz Witherspoon. Pause on fucking Usyk, okay? I'm sorry. No. AJ's going to piece him up, man. That right hand, when it lands, that right straight lands on Usyk, can change the demeanor of the fight, man.
Chisora landed. Chisora hits harder than AJ does.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, roughly the same, probably. Right? Like, I mean, I don't love Usyk's performance against Chisora. Obviously, it wasn't his best performance. But it showed me he could take a heavyweight shot.
From a old, faded-ass Chisora who gasses within 2 rounds.
But he can still hit, though. He can still punch. Right?
Dude,
like Chisora.
Think about this, Gary. Think about this for a second. An old, gassed-out Chisora was still landing punches on this defensive wizard. That's not a sign the defensive wizard's talented. That's the sign the defensive wizard isn't that much of a fucking wizard at heavyweight. Because an old-ass dude that gassed out within 6 minutes of a 36-minute fight was still able to land punches and go the distance.
I said that was concerning. That Usyk had him hurt in the middle rounds, never got him out. That's concerning. He's got to get people out. Like, even if it's just from volume and making the ref stop it, like, he's got to get people out because no heavyweight goes on a heavyweight run and, you D12s everyone. It doesn't happen. You're going to get knocked out. So you better.
You can't really pep the heavyweight division.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, eventually, someone's going to let you out because those guys can hit. Right. So you can't UD12 all of them. Like, you got to stop someone when they're hurt. And that's what Freddie Roach told Fury against Wilder in the first fight. It's like, you can hurt him. Get him out. Like, just don't let him. Man, he can't stand. He can't fight. Get him out. If you get him out, he's not dangerous anymore. As long as you let him hang around, he's dangerous. And Usyk's going to have to figure out a way to get people out, or he's going to lose. It's just not going to be against Joshua this time.
Team Batman Boxing coming in with the tag team approach on Gary, saying no, he isn't a bigger puncher, Gary. AJ would never go the distance with Hellenius and Caballal.
Yeah, because the ref would stop it as soon as he landed a shot, like he did with what was the fighter's name?
Tony Belly's boxing skills gave Usyk problems.
How did Tony Bellew end up in that fight?
Oh, because he beat David Hay, man, remember?
Yeah, no, how did that fight end for Bellew?
Oh, he got knocked the fuck out. Let's be honest here. Tony Bellew, who's not a heavyweight, he's a cruiserweight, right?
Yeah, I don't think you want to use that as an example. Like, I'm not using Chisora.
No. We're just using the boxing skills. Come on, you can have critical thinking here and compartmentalize a fight in different facets, right? If you're like a guy like Chisora who gassed out in 2 rounds, was still able to land shots, and then a guy like AJ who does have a 12-round gas tank, will be able to land shots throughout the 12 rounds with the cardio tank intact. If you look at the boxing skills of Tony Bellew and him able to land the jab, him able to have some effect, AJ can probably do that.
Let me ask you this. Who do you think is better, Chisora or Carlos Takam? That's the name I was thinking of that gave AJ problems.
Well, they fought, obviously. Chisora won. Barely, but he won.
Oh, that's right, they did fight. Okay. So roughly, pretty comparable. Chisora's probably a little bit better, right? Because of the power? Takam,
yeah, because
Takam gave AJ problems.
Dude, that's such a weird fight, though, because remember, Takam was like landing combination after combination on Chisora. That was the most insane.
Takam's a better boxer than Chisora. Chisora's got the power and the physical strength.
Talking as a gas tank, he can last full 12. You know, he's a workman still. You know, like Chisora doesn't have that strength, man, that cardio. Look, Usyk, he made a mistake coming to heavyweight. I'll just say that.
If AJ can't handle Ruiz's speed, which he can't,
he did.
How's he gonna? The second time when he was 400 pounds, that don't count. That was like when Buster Douglas showed up against Holyfield. Like, that's the same Buster Douglas that beat Tyson. It's like, no, it's not.
And to be fair, he did handle the speed. He just got hit in the clinch. He got hit on the inside by a heavyweight puncher
in the third round. And what about the rest of the rounds?
And then didn't recover. That motherfucker did not look like he recovered from that shot. And now maybe you might make a talking point from that hey, maybe AJ's chin isn't as great. And that's probably
I just said Usyk can't knock people out in the heavyweight. So now I would have, if I hadn't said that first, I could have went there, but then I'd be contradicting.
Because I would say, like, the one issue I have with AJ is his chin. I do think he can get hit and clocked. We've seen the Klitschko fight. We've seen the Dylan White fight. We've seen it in the Andrew Reese fight. We've seen that at a certain level of heavyweights, you can catch AJ and hurt him. But I don't think, like you said, we've already talked about how Usyk doesn't have the power at heavyweight. And I think that the speed isn't as much of a factor. I don't think Usyk is as speedy in this division as he was at cruiserweight. I'll be honest. His footwork doesn't seem as fast. His lateral movement doesn't seem as fast. His hand speed probably is still equivalent to the cruiserweight, but he's more stationary at heavyweight than he was at cruiserweight, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong in that.
No, it totally seems that way.
It seems that way, especially like if you compare, let's say, like the Garcia fight with the Chisora fight, even though there's a little bit apples to oranges there. But Usyk was on his bike for 12 rounds, hauling ass, man. I so wish we had like that in tennis. We can see how many fucking yards they've run. Because Usyk ran, I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but he ran the whole fight, and he won it clearly. With the Chisora fight, I don't think he did that well. I think he stood in the pocket a lot more because he had to for some reason. I don't know what the reason is. Maybe because
he's aging. Maybe his legs aren't what they used to be.
He's
not young anymore. I know he hasn't had a ton of fights, maybe 20 fights or something, but he's not young.
You have the amateur career. It's like Loma. Like Loma's going to have a faster drop off than we think because he has 300 fights under his belt that we never saw. I don't know how much amateur fights Usyk had, but the guy
twice, so I'm sure he had a lot.
A prolific amateur career. Yeah. That's all we heard. So I'm assuming it's at least 100. That's a safe assumption, I think.
I would say probably it could be double that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, I'm excited for this fight. It's not like official yet, but I know it's going to be soon. And it's a big fight. We have like this summer is jam packed. From the end of June all the way through like August is just packed fights in terms of the schedule so far. And we don't even know when the Canelo Plant fight's going to be made. So I think even September going to that month is going to be just amazing, amazing events. So a good period for the sport. I'm excited.
And as far as Fury Wilder, I really like what Wilder's doing with Malik Scott. I'm not going to pick him because I can't. But like, I'm getting a weird feeling about that fight. I'm going to pick Fury. So my official pick is Fury. But like, I'm getting a weird feeling about that fight. Like, wow. I'm liking. It's going to knock him out.
I'm liking all the work I'm seeing from the camp. You know, like we talked about, hey, he needs to do a lot of technical work in the gym to improve his skill. And, you know, we talked about, you know, especially right after February of 2020, we were talking about, does he have enough time for that rematch? Obviously, COVID happened. It gave him that much time. Let's see if it worked. I'm genuinely curious about the new and improved Wilder that we've been seeing through social media, whether that's going to translate actually in the ring when it counts. Because if it does, if we see him use the jab the way he's been working on it, if we see him work the body the way we've been seeing him work it in the gym, I'm really curious to see what happens. I'm still picking Fury because the way he demolished Wilder in that second fight was too indicative of something, in my opinion. But hey, it's boxing. Who knows?
It's heavyweight boxing. I mean, like Wilder says, he has to be perfect for 3 seconds or whatever he says, right? Like it's kind of true. Like, I like the. I'm not picking him. I can't go that far, but I have a weird feeling about this fight.
I'm sorry, Daniel. In the chat, I consider Gary part Ukrainian.
What's funny, I'm not even a Loma fan. I'm only an Usyk fan.
I was about to say, you're not even a Loma stan. You're just an Usyk stan. God bless you. Anyways, moving on. Second to last topic of the day. Keith Thurman, Sean Porter looked like they were about to have a rematch of their epic 2016 fight. Gary, your thoughts on PBC matching them up without a title, without really anything on the line? I mean, I'm actually kind of surprised by this. I thought both guys were either going to take a tune-up or one of them was going to be used for Terrence Crawford. I just thought other things, maybe an Ugas matchup. Like, there's a lot of other thoughts and pathways they could have gone instead of, in a sense, knocking one of these guys out of the rotation for a period of time, because that's what's going to happen, right? Whoever loses this fight is going to be out of the rotation for 6 to 9 months and have to take a tune-up. So, Gary, your thoughts on this risky rematch at this point?
I love that they're both taking this risk. I love this fight. The first fight was really good, really close. It was 115, 113, either way, how you scored. I scored it for Keith Thurman. I'm going to pick Porter because I think, he's gotten better and Thurman has just kind of aged, But I'm going to pick Porter. Again, I picked Porter the first time too. But I like the fight. I like Porter fights anyone. So I said, if a fight with Terrence Crawford doesn't happen, it's 100% on Terrence Crawford because Porter's been able to work out a deal with every other top welterweight, every single other one. So I put that on Crawford. And Thurman, I think this is a risk, but Thurman needs to do something to get Spence, which is really what he wants, right? Or Pacquiao wins, but I'm not picking that, right? So he needs to win this fight. Like beating Ugas. Let's say he beat Ugas, it's good, but it doesn't demand a Spence fight. If he beats Porter, who fought a really close fight with Spence, that some people think Porter won, that makes a statement. You know what I'm saying? So I like the risk that both guys are taking. I'm not surprised that Porter did it, and I like the risk that Keith Thurman's taking. Keith Thurman's 32 now, believe it or not, right? Like, he really hasn't fought much since he's 27. He's 32 now. So he needs to get moving. He's been really, really inactive outside of that 6 months span where he fought Lopez and Pacquiao. He didn't fight for 2 years before that. It's been 2 years since then. So he's fought twice since the Danny Garcia fight.
Yeah. And
even when he fought Garcia, he was only fighting once a year, right? He fought Collazo. He was only fighting once a year at that point. So he needs to get moving, and this is a giant step. And it's a good fight. I like the risk, and I like all of it. And Terrence Crawford and Top Rank ought to be ashamed of themselves because they could have had either one of those guys if they just would have paid them.
I echo everything you're saying. If Keith Thurman beat Sean Porter in the year of our Lord 2021, after basically a 4-year layoff with 2 fights in between. That'd be really impressive. And like you said, it's probably going to be the Spence fight right after that for a pay-per-view. I'm intrigued by this matchup. I'm still going to pick Porter, like you said, for the same reasons. Thurman's either stagnated or digressed. Porter has gotten a lot better in the past few years since their fight, or the last 5 years now since their fight, because it's been 5 years since their first fight. Holy shit, that makes me feel old, because I was back when I was covering the sport or started covering the sport. Anyways, really excited for this. I'm curious about whether it's going to be on Showtime, Fox, or a pay-per-view. I hope they don't put this on pay-per-view.
They're putting it on pay-per-view.
I really hope not.
It's a shame, too, because you could put a great fight on again. The first one was on, like, CBS or something, right? It was on free TV.
And it did, like, I think a peak of, like, 5-something million viewers, which was really high at the time.
You can put on, it's going to be, whoever wins, the fight's going to be fun again, right? So you put on a fun fight in front of millions of people, and then you go for the score in the Spence pay-per-view after that. But they're just going to put them on, and instead of having 5 million people watch it, you're going to have 300,000 people, 250,000 people buy it. You know, it's just, it's such short-term thinking, where you can put on a great fight and then make a pay-per-view, a huge pay-per-view fight with Spence, whoever wins. But they're going to put a bowl on pay-per-view.
Last topic of the day. It looks like Bob Arum has first swooped in where Eddie Hearn was with Sky Sports. I think it's been confirmed now by Sky.com as well that Top Rank and Sky Sports have struck a 4-year deal to air Top Rank's U.S. fights live on Sky Sports, obviously in the wake of Eddie Hearn and Matchroom leaving Sky Sports. Gary, first thoughts on the actual deal, thoughts on whether or not, you know, this is going to be a really successful move for Top Rank and Sky in the wake of Eddie Hearn and Matchroom leaving. And second point, your thought on the pettiness of Bob Arum to do this, because clearly it was like somewhat of a petty move by Bob Arum, who has not minced his words about his feelings for Eddie Hearn.
I was kind of thinking that too, but Bob Arum is a 90-year-old businessman. Like, if it made dollars, it made sense to him. Like, Sky Sports obviously has a ton of money. They have a boxing void. Maybe they absolutely threw the bag at him, and it's like, obviously I'm going to say yes to this, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know the details but you just think Bob Arum, Frank Warren, BT Sport, right? But you know, Sky Sport had a boxing void now, and they needed to fill it. And this, I think it makes sense, assuming that they gave him a lot of money, which I'd imagine. Right? It's like if ABC, Disney made a deal, you'd assume it's for a ton of money, right? Like, I don't know, but I just assume it's for a ton of money. I assume that this deal is for a ton of money, where Bob Arum had to say yes, right? So, I mean, I think it makes sense for both parties, even though, yeah, I can see how you would think it's petty, right? Like, but I mean, Bob Arum's not going to turn down the money. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's more money, he's going to take it because he's a businessman. And he's been a businessman for since Lincoln was president. Right? How old is he? Right?
Lincoln was president. Jesus Christ, Gary. You know, I think that I don't know how much the money could be. I think it's a good deal for Sky because they just get some boxing content. That's probably going to be on the cheap, if we're going to be quite honest. This is all.
So? I don't think Sky does anything on the cheap, though.
But think about it, this is going to be content that's not in prime time. None of this is prime time production or content for Sky. This is 4 a.m. shit. This is filler.
Well, wait. I'm trying to think, because I said it was going to be on in the morning hour. So this is like afternoon boxing, their time, right? So it would be morning.
No. Our prime time top rank shows are going to be on at 4 a.m. over there.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
There's no way they're going to get the same deal that they got for ESPN, for example, right? They got around $90 million, give or take, for the ESPN deal per year for their budget. There's no way they got half of that from Sky.
No. That's a ton of money. Yeah, that's a ton of money.
I'm guessing they got 10 to 20 million a year, if I had to guess.
I don't know. I was going to say more than that, about double that, but I was at half the ESPN deal. But even that may be a lot. I don't know.
It's 4 a.m. content, man. Like, and plus it's It's Top Rank. Like, this isn't shit that's like gonna actually generate a lot of views in the UK market because these aren't UK fighters. You think the UK cares about Emmanuel Navarte? You think they care about Shakur Stevenson? You think they care about, I don't know, Nakatani?
I mean, they only care about him to a degree where they can measure him to fight one of their guys, right? Like, they cared about Shakur Stevenson so much as a fight with Selby or something like that. Like, okay, how does he look against my guy? No, they don't really particularly care about Shakur Stevenson, right? No.
So in order for them to actually make matches that would generate interest in the UK market, they're going to have to work with Matchroom because Frank Warren doesn't have the roster that's going to actually fill out B-sides for the top, elite fighters for Top Rank. You're going to need Matchroom's guys. So, like, I feel like this is just a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid for Sky Sports' sports programming. That's what it feels like.
He has a plan to invade the UK market, Top Rank UK.
If Bob Arum at 90 years old invades the UK market and tries to compete with Eddie Hearn there, God bless him. Good luck.
He's literally like 90 years old. I mean, he's 90. Like, we're not exaggerating here. Like, all right, like if he's got, I would never want to be working when I'm 90. Like, I want to be out on a beach doing nothing. That's what I want to do when I was 30, right? But like, if that's what he wants to do, God bless him. It's like, me at 90? Nah. That's what a bird's going. I want my grandkids and a beach, and that's it. Like, I don't want to be working. Like,
wow. Anyways, Gary, I think that's gonna be it for the show today, man. Any final thoughts? Any last topics to get into?
No, I think we covered everything, right?
I think so. Yeah. I'll be live at 4 p.m. on our other channel, talking all things politics. Talking the election in Peru. That saw Pedro Castillo most likely win the election, which is a huge, huge shift in the Peruvian political climate. So that should be very interesting to get into. A lot of other topics as well. Find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, all social media platforms. This is Mixed Combat Radio. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Remember, we are live at the House of Dreams studio in downtown LA. If you have any podcasting needs or music needs, hit me up on social media if you want to come record. Gary, final thoughts? Let people know to find you.
Find me all from social media, 3D Boxing Blog, and subscribe to the brand new channel, Texas Boxing Scene, completely dedicated to Texas boxing. I'm going to be in San Antonio this week talking to some fighters. I'm going to upload some new content later in the week and early next week. So check that out. It is June 9th, 2021. Oh, yeah, and all proceeds from the channel go to Autism Research and Recovery. It is June 9th. Wow, it's June 9th already? 2021. Ivan Caldwell is still on the Boxing Hall of Fame. Let's get him in. And Texas is still not a country. Let's make Texas a country again. From Texas to the world, thank you, and God bless.
Real last thought, just want to recommend a book really fast since I've been reading this book. Blood in My Eye by George Jackson. This is a must read. Have to read it. Recommend it for anyone. George Jackson was a prisoner in the U.S. system in the 60s and 70s, worked with the Black Panthers and such, and was assassinated by police in 1971. Really interesting perspective on a lot of things. For those that care about like revolutionary aspects or theory, guerrilla warfare, fascinating stuff in here. Really recommend it. Gary, as a revolutionary fan yourself, even though you're not a Marxist or communist, you would like some of the thoughts in here because it's like, ooh, intriguing. Just the concepts here. I'm telling you, you would like this a lot, Gary. And plus, I know you, like me, are always a fan of prison abolition as well. Yeah,
we found some weird common ground on things, right? Like a capitalist evangelical and a Marxist can find some common ground on things.
All right, have a good one. Remember, at all times, fuck the police and free Palestine. Peace.